I'll never call off. Fourth quarter pressure. Back of the jersey. Double sevens. No matter how many times, I never get tired of that reference. Hall of Fame for dirt. We love you with a deep reverence.
Hi, this is Luka Doncic.
Hi, I'm Kyrie Irving.
And you're listening to the Mavs Step Back Podcast.
They waiting on my fall off. I'll never call off. Fourth quarter pressure. Back of the jersey. Double sevens. No matter how many times, I never get tired of that reference. Hall of Fame for dirt. We love you with a deep reverence. Backcourt nasty. I wonder who gon' check him. Cuban did his thing when he went and got number 11. I still got his picture on my wall at 707. Feel synonymous with Kyrie, how we both train with aggression. Competition obsolete. Trying to breathe life into my dreams. I'm so tired of sleep. Still got some work from last season that was incomplete. So hungry for redemption. Thank my boys, just might overeat. Like Luka with his 3 of them hit, my mic is prone to overheat. I pride myself the most. I'm 22 and my folks proud of me. I took the heart away since I was 10. Was no surprise to me. A step back, Mavs blowing up was no surprise to me. And I'm speaking honestly. 7.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Drew Johnson. You heard our great intro that they've been blowing me up on the YouTube comments here lately, asking, is there anywhere you can download our intro song? It's coming. Our guy 66 Drew is working on getting that up on Spotify and Apple Music, so stay tuned for that. But you heard it. You know what that means. It is another Dallas Mavericks playoff win. And boy, DJ, this one was a classic. This was like 2011 Mavs vibes where no deficit, is big enough for them to come back from. They were down 18 points in the first half. They made a little run there at the end of the second quarter to cut it to 12. Then they had it cut to, I believe 4 going into the fourth
7.
quarter.
It was 7 because Naz Reid hit a 3.
That's right. Naz Reid hit a 3. He was 7 of 9 from the 3-point line in this game. Luckily,
Thank God he wasn't 8 for 9. But,
one of those 2 misses came at the final buzzer. But let's just roll this for the people instead of us, talking throughout this intro. This is what happened. This is what Luka did to the Timberwolves down to with about 10 seconds left. This is what he did to the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert.
There's a switch. Gobert is out there. Doncic maneuvers for the lead.
Buckets.
What a shot.
it's just filthy.
Absolute nails. Just unbelievable stuff, DJ. So Luka, he had another 30-point triple-double. He hits that unbelievable 3 over Rudy. He's talking shit to Rudy immediately after that because he shares the same sentiments for Rudy that you do.
Yes.
He's yelling,
As all good God-fearing Americans should.
you can't effing guard me. And then he was telling the fans in the Minnesota crowd to take their butts home, take their asses home. I think I'm just gonna screw it. We're just gonna take the lid off of this one. But man, unbelievable stuff from Luka Doncic. He is. I told you before we jumped on here, DJ. It feels like we're reaching that Jordan arc for Luka, where it's like no matter what's happening in these games, Luka just feels inevitable at some point. Like he's going to take over. He's going to find a way to get his team over the top. And we said it, his failure on this stage 2 years ago has to motivate this too. And it's crazy to see. So I have a lot of things I want to talk about, but I'm going to stop there. And I just want to get your initial reactions on that Game 2 win for the Mavs. Now they're 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. It's crazy.
Man, so I'll start off with the positive because I know everyone wants to hear the positive first. I don't want to upset anybody right away. Hell of a finish down the stretch. I'd hate to say that I didn't, or I'm speechless, honestly, because the totality of that shot is just immense. But one thing that I do want to point out was it may have been a miscommunication on the Wolves' part. I don't know. But why the hell didn't they double right there? Or
Who knows?
Even worse, why the hell did they even have Gobert on the floor at that point? But I'm glad that they did exactly what they did because it worked out real well. But the second that I saw Gobert switched on Luka, I had a feeling, this is going to be where this ends. And then whenever he bit hard, he bit so hard on that initial jab, and Luka was able to pull it back. That's his shot. Like,
yes,
Luka's step back, that's his bread and butter. He does that multiple times a game. And if you're the Timberwolves, you've got to be kicking yourself for that late game matchup because that is a complete and total screw up.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe, worst case scenario, if you let Luka drive in for that, worst case scenario, you have a tie ball game with about 3 or 4 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenario for you. Now, if he gets past Gobert and they crash hard, then obviously Luka could have dished it out to Kyrie or somebody for a 3 with no time remaining. But if you just let him go to the basket, it's a tie ball game. And then you have a chance to win it. And if you don't win it, it goes to overtime. But man, you're right. He bit hard. On that fake. And Luka, that was the shot he won. And look, he went on the TNT postgame thing with Charles Barkley and Shaq, Kenny Smith, Ernie. And they asked him about Draymond Green was there too. And he also shares your sentiments for for Rudy Gobert. But Luka was talking about it, and he said, "Yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for. We were looking for the switch with Rudy, and looking to get to his step back 3, a shot that he is supremely confident in. Like he practices that more than anything else. Like that's his, like you said, his bread and butter. So he got the shot he wanted. Unbelievable comeback. The Mavs, they started out, they were down 18 in that first half. Nothing could go right for this team. And it was a lot of unforced errors again. It wasn't, there was one point in this game where we kind of started to think maybe this thing is over because everything was going wrong. And you put it best. You said, man, this isn't going to be a case of the Timberwolves winning. This is going to be a case of the Mavericks losing because of how they're playing. And
we were beating ourselves. And honestly, if a team is able to overcome themselves, not just other teams, but overcome themselves and win games, that is a championship contender.
Yeah.
That is, that's what it takes. If you can overcome yourself, no one can beat you.
Yeah. And that's exactly what that 2011 team did. Yep. It didn't matter how much they were down by or what the situation was. They just had that mentality, that resiliency to where they came back from anything. And it was incredible to see. So Luka, incredible, not just the game-winning shot, but he had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists, shot 10 of 23 overall, hit 5 of his 11 threes, perfect 7 of 7 from the free throw line. And the Mavs needed every single bit of it because Kyrie Irving, as good as he was in the fourth quarter, he had 13 of his 20 points in the fourth quarter alone. He went 2 of 5 on free throws. Unbelievable
characteristic. He was 90% on the season. So, that's a fluke. And again, it's like I just said, if you can overcome yourself, you can do anything. And I think what the Mavs are understanding now completely is it's not about who is across the court from you. All right. It's not about who you're put up against. It's about you and yourself and overcoming your own issues, your own inadequacies. And we are seeing that happen in real time with this team. They are literally overcoming their own mistakes to grab wins against a Timberwolves team that many thought were destined to go to the NBA Finals.
They're incredible. They were the number one defense. Now, look, we said this before the series started. If you're looking from the trade deadline to the end of the season, the Mavs were the number one defensive team.
And I think that's more accurate.
And that's more current. But that doesn't take away anything from the Timberwolves. They are an outstanding defensive team, and they were the number one team for the entire season.
Yeah.
And they've been good defensively in the playoffs. We saw them do an excellent job on Nikola Jokic in the second round. Now they did lose 3 in a row during that series, but for the most part, they did as good of a job as anybody can do on Jokic. They're built to beat that Denver team. And so it's not taking anything away from the Timberwolves. They're an excellent team. It's just I don't know if there's any defense out there that can do anything with Luka and Kyrie together.
Not when they're both clicking. Not when they're both clicking. Not when they're both on the same page, and not whenever it's the fourth quarter. Because whenever the fourth quarter rolls around, those two get going no matter what. Especially Luka. Luka is in these past 2 games. Luka has been unstoppable. And I got news for Skip Bayless. If he thought that Luka reminded him of Michael Jordan after game 1, this ought to give him flashbacks after tonight. Good Lord.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. You just did that aggregation piece of Skip Bayless saying after game 1 that Luka reminded him of Jordan, and then the next game, he comes back and just is nails on that last shot. Just massive onions for Luka.
I mean, there's a meme where do you remember the old Spider-Man movies, the ones with Tobey Maguire in it?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. So it starts off with Tobey Maguire putting on his glasses or whatever, and it's blurry, and then he takes them off and he can see clearly. But when the glasses are on, he sees an outline of Michael Jordan. Takes them off, it's Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
I want to see that meme. Whoever out there is good at this kind of stuff, I want to see that meme.
That's hilarious. And I mean, you're not wrong either. I mean, it's just the vibes are immaculate. I can't describe it. Like, this team gives you no reason to doubt them, even when they go down big. And I don't know, DJ. I mean, this series is not over. No. It's not over yet because, again, Minnesota is a great team. They have great weapons on that roster. Naz Reid is incredible. He, hardly ever misses a 3 against the Mavs. Thank God he missed the big one there at the end as time was expiring, because it was a good look, and he missed it. But to get a 7 of 9 performance from 3 from Naz Reid, a game where Anthony Edwards was going more downhill to start the game and ended up really at the end of the game too. He ended up shooting 9 of 10 from the free throw line. You got 18 points from Conley. You got 15 points from Cat, who had another subpar shooting game, which was due to the defense the Mavs were playing on him.
I want to talk about him there in a little bit. Something really interesting happened with him down the stretch that I'm a little puzzled by it. But, I mean, they benched him. They benched him midway through the third quarter, didn't they?
I don't know if I know it was in the fourth quarter. I don't know if they benched him that early throughout it may have been because he only played 26 minutes.
The whole fourth. I could be wrong, but it didn't feel like to me he played in the whole fourth quarter.
No, I think you might be right there. I think he might have been benched for the entire fourth quarter. I'm going to go look at this and see. But I mean, what do you think about his performance overall? I mean, I think some people will look at that and say, "Oh, Cat just he hasn't had a couple of good shooting games." I think you got to credit the Mavs defense, on Cat more than it is, him just missing shots. What do you think?
Well, they're doing a really good job getting out on him on the 3-point line. I mean, for being the best quote unquote shooting big of all time, he doesn't do a great job of shooting against the closeout. And I think that the Mavs, he's not comfortable shooting against closeouts, period. At least that's the way it appears to me. And so I think they've done a really good job of running him off a three-point line, and they're forcing him to play more of a traditional post role. And I just don't think he's overly comfortable with that, which is interesting to me because he's got all the physical tools to be really good down there. And I've seen him be really good down there in the past. I don't know. He's hard for me to figure out.
I looked at it, and he did actually start the fourth quarter, but he only played 3 minutes. So a little under 9 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Rudy Gobert came in for Karl Anthony Towns, and Karl Anthony Towns did not see the floor for the rest of the game. So
I remember. And the excuse that the announcers gave was because Naz Reid was having such a good game. But, I mean, if you need scoring down the stretch, don't you put him in for Gobert?
I don't know. They were close. They were close to being forced to put Cat back in because with about about 2 minutes left, Gobert had 5 fouls. So they were close to having not having to think about it there. But it was weird. It was I don't know. I feel like with the way Naz Reid was playing and how versatile of a defender he can be too. I mean, don't you need to find a way to have even, all three of them? If anything, you probably bench Gobert because you know how Luka specifically hunts Gobert. Despite the fact that Gobert is a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, he won it again this year. Mm-hmm. Despite all that,
he shouldn't have.
Luka still hunts that man.
Well,
every single time they play each other. We saw it in 2022. When the Mavs beat the Jazz in the first round, Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert on that team too. Luka loves doing this to Rudy Gobert. He doesn't like Rudy Gobert. He hates Rudy Gobert.
He hates him. He's always hated him, and that was evident.
And it's not just, and that is rooted. I mean, it's not just an NBA thing. That is rooted back to EuroLeague ball. Like it goes back to the national team stuff because France was the team that kept Slovenia from getting a medal in the last Olympics that they played in. So it's some deep rooted stuff there. He hates Rudy for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, well, so do I. So it's all good. I get it. But the issue that Minnesota runs in with Rudy Gobert is you have inadequacies on the floor without him, obviously. I mean, we saw that stat that someone in our group chat posted, and I mentioned it in that article that I wrote, where they're like 89.5 points worse per 48 minutes in the paint, or 89.5 points in the paint worse without Rudy Gobert on the floor. That's the difference, is 89.5 points per 48 minutes, which I'm not sure how all of that is calculated. I'm not really a math guy, but that's an insane stat. Yeah. So they're awful when guarding the paint whenever he's not on the floor. Yet at the same time, and as we saw all the way through this game, all the way through last game, and all the way up to the very end when he switched on Luka in a pick and roll scenario, he is a liability in the pick and roll. Liability. And it's broadcasted for everyone to see in the final moments of this game.
Yeah, on the
biggest guard in the pick and roll, no matter what he does. It doesn't matter if he switches. It doesn't matter if they blitz. It doesn't matter if he hedges. It doesn't matter if he drops. He cannot guard the Dallas Mavericks in the pick and roll.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What do you do?
I don't know what you do.
You're awful in the paint. If you don't bench him, you can't guard the pick and roll. And I really thought we would see some kind of defensive adjustment out of the Wolves today, maybe zone, something that keeps him out of playing defense in a pick and roll situation. And you really didn't see that today, but there were still so many unforced errors on the Mavs part that, it kind of went unnoticed. But it didn't go unnoticed by me. I still noticed it. So, I mean.
And you're right. I mean, it should be part. I know it's part of kids' game plan. Like,
it'd be part of mine.
He's seeing the same thing you're seeing and what we're all seeing right now. And look, I mentioned it earlier. This series is not over. There is still work to do, but with the way these first two games have gone, the Mavs stealing both games on the road to start the Western Conference Finals, and you had the poor shooting display from three in the first game, and then to come back in this game and you look at the box score, PJ Washington 0 of 4 from three, Derrick Jones Jr. 0 of 3. I just don't think that's going to continue. Especially going home, playing at American Airlines Center for games 3 and 4, those guys are going to wake up a little bit. And, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying Minnesota can't grab a game in Dallas, but it feels like the Mavs have just taken a stranglehold on this series now. And I fully expect the role players, especially PJ and Derrick Jones Jr., I expect them to shoot the ball better as this series swings back to Dallas.
Well, you want to talk about role players. How about Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford tonight?
Whew.
Both of them
huge
were absolutely massive. They were instrumental in getting us and keeping us semi-alive whenever we weren't making shots. I can't count how many tip outs Derek Lively had. He did a fantastic job of just batting the ball out to give us extra possessions, and he kept us alive at times. Gafford had some awesome moments offensively. There was this one point where it was actually a defense and offensive highlight all in one, where he blocked the shot of, I think it was it Michael Conley? It may have been Michael Conley. It was somebody. It was a 3-point shot by somebody. Anyway, he blocks it. Luka gets the rebound. Gafford takes off down the floor. Luka loops it over everybody. Kind of a questionable pass. Not going to lie. Kind of made my soul leave its body a little bit.
Yep.
Gafford may have gotten away with a little bit of a push there whenever he caught the ball. And then he went tumbling down and flipped it up and somehow, by the grace of God, made a layup.
That was huge, too, because it was a tie ball game.
It was incredible. An incredible play.
I'm actually going to pull that up while you're talking because
pull that up. I mean, people need to see that. It was absolutely incredible. But
let's pull this up here. Let me get my screen correct here, guys. Sorry for the delay. I'm not the greatest at doing this, but we make it happen, don't we, DJ?
Do what?
I said we make it happen, don't we, DJ?
Oh yeah.
But here it is. Look, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It's a tie ball game, 94-94. Here you go. Look at that.
Whenever this was happening, and Taylor and my wife is my witness, I had like a mini stroke because I was pissed off because of the pass, and then I was sure that a foul was going to be called on that slight little push off. So I was still mad, and then he throws that up, and as he's throwing that up, I get a little bit more pissed off. And then it goes in, and I just don't know how to be a person anymore. So
I want to be honest. I didn't know Gafford had that kind of touch in him.
I didn't either.
That's incredible. That's unbelievable.
Big time shot. That's a top 10 play right there. Has to be.
Oh, yeah.
Dial it up, Sports Center.
Yeah. Has to be on Sports Center top 10 tonight. So Gafford, that was a huge moment in the game. We mentioned Derek Lively, your favorite time of the night. I don't know if you've already looked, but surprisingly, Derek Lively did not lead the plus-minus category tonight. Would you like to guess who it is if you haven't already looked?
Oh, I haven't looked, so let me guess.
Take a guess.
I have to go Luka. Is it Luka?
Was Josh Green.
What?
In 21 minutes off the bench, Josh Green was a team high plus 15. The next highest was tied with Luka and Kyrie at plus 6. So Josh Green making an impact off the bench.
How'd they figure that?
I mean, I thought he played pretty solid defense.
Fine, yeah, but I didn't think that he had that kind of impact.
This is one of those things where the plus minus. Now look, Josh Green, I thought he was fine off the bench.
Yeah,
he went 2 of 4. He hit his only 3-pointer that he shot.
He actually hit a big 3. That was a big 3.
He had 6 rebounds and 2 steals.
He did a great job of batting rebounds out too. I will
Yeah.
give him that. He did a really good job of crashing hard from the 3-point line and batting stuff out so that we could get extra possessions.
Yeah.
So,
And then Lively, you mentioned it. You mentioned Gafford and Lively are both huge. Like, dude, Lively is just every game. It just makes me say, I cannot believe this guy's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's 20 years old. He's going head to head with Rudy Gobert, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. And he's more than holding his own.
He's better.
So tonight in 38 minutes for Gobert had 16 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal, shot 6 of 10 from the field. So that was in 38 minutes. In 27 minutes off the bench, Lively had 14 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and shot 6 of 6 from the floor, including hitting both of his free throws. So, I mean, this guy is unbelievable. He's gritty. He gets on the floor. There was one time where Anthony Edwards, I think the ball, it was a loose ball with Anthony Edwards, and Lively dove on the floor and got possession of it. Got the Mavs possession again. Like, stuff like that is huge. Your 7'1" rookie center is making plays like that for you. Just unprecedented stuff, in my opinion, from Lively. We can't say enough good things about the guy.
A lot of people compare him to Tyson Chandler, but I got news for you. Well, but I've got news for you. If you go back and you look at Tyson Chandler as a rookie and what he did, Lively is a better player than Tyson Chandler was at this stage. I think Lively is probably a better player. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think it's a wonderful comparison. And I also think it's great that Chandler is there to sort of mentor him because, I mean, obviously whatever they're doing is working. But, yeah, we can't say enough about the impact the kid has had on winning on the biggest stage. And, there's a good chance that he could have a big part in getting us to the NBA Finals and possibly winning it because, honestly, I know Boston won by a lot last game, but I'm still not overly impressed. I really am not. They're definitely beatable, and I'm definitely not as concerned with them as I was with the Timberwolves going into this. So
the thing about Boston is they haven't been tested during this playoff run, and I feel like that makes a difference. I feel like that will have an impact if things keep trending the way they are right now, and we do have Mavs versus Celtics in the NBA Finals, because the Celtics have not been tested. They cruised through round 1. They cruised through round 2. They look like they might sweep the Pacers in this series because the Pacers choked away game 1. And then you're going to go from that to playing the best defensive team in the league since the trade deadline. And Luka, and you have Kyrie coming back to Boston. Talk about headline grabbers. Yeah. Oh, man.
And another thing to notice is they have nothing that can protect the rim right now. If they don't get Kristaps back, and if they don't get him back at full strength, they are in trouble. Big trouble.
Look, DJ, even if they get him back, I don't know if you remember. I mean, I'm sure you do, but when Kristaps Porzingis was with the Mavs, Daniel Gafford used to eat his lunch every time the Mavs played the Wizards. Like, Daniel Gafford abused Kristaps Porzingis. So, I mean, and I get it. Kristaps Porzingis is better because he plays more within his role now, and, it's a slightly different scenario. But, man, I don't know. I feel like the Mavs bigs can handle KP.
He's also going to have a hard time guarding in the pick and roll, similar to how Rudy Gobert is having issues, I think. I don't think that he's going to be able to move laterally enough to be able to keep up, especially with this most recent injury that has hampered him. He's going to be slowed down. That I guarantee it. So, but, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We still need to win 2 more games. But
job is not finished.
No. But like I said, this could be it. I mean, this is as good a chance as we've ever had.
And look, if you want to know just how much, how good the vibes are and how fortunate, things going in the Mavs' favor and everything. There was a play, and, if you're Minnesota, you're probably pretty pissed off at the officials because the Mavs did benefit from this. But with 47 seconds left, Kyrie Irving reached over, and it was a foul. He did foul Jaden McDaniels, but the foul wasn't called, and the ball went out of bounds, and they said it was Minnesota's ball. Jason Kidd challenged it, and you can't go back and call a foul if there was no foul called. So all they could do is go back and look at who the ball went off of, and it went off of Jaden McDaniels' hand.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mavs, and I mean, you can't blame the Mavs for taking advantage of a officiating loophole there. Kudos to Jason Kidd for doing what he had to do. But, the Mavs did catch a break there that Kyrie didn't get called for the foul, and then they challenged that play, and it got overturned, and, Dallas got the ball down 2. So
we were lucky that we didn't get called for a foul. But, I mean, Jason Kidd having the presence of mind to actually challenge that was huge.
He has been money with his challenges this series so far.
I think that he's done a really good job this series, honestly, with the exception of a couple hiccups that
the timeout.
That thankfully didn't cost us anything. And he's done a pretty good job with calling timeouts too. I mean, I have no complaints about Coach Kidd so far this series.
It's crazy too, because you almost wonder, because it was announced, I think it was during the first round where it was announced that that Kidd got his contract extension. Or maybe it was right after the first round. I don't know.
I don't think that we were quite past the Clippers yet.
Yeah. Well, he got his contract extension, and we figured, him getting that contract extension, he still had next year on the books anyway, but him getting that extension out of the way, it was one less thing to hover over the team's head, going forward. He has his long-term security. The team feels good about it. I think that's kind of played a factor in all this, because Kidd, he's playing. I mean, he's coaching loose out there. Like he's not uptight and, second guessing things. And he is flat out coaching, and we have to tip our hat to him because he's done a great job. And again, you can't control what the officials are going to call and what they're not going to call, but you can control what you can control, which is challenging stuff like that. And he's been money with them so far. So it's been good to see. But yeah, I mean, look, crazy game. Mavs down 18. I just don't know how Minnesota, and I'm not saying that they can't come back and win a game in Dallas. I just don't know how you mentally recover from losing both games on your home floor to start the series when you shot the ball as well as you did in those 2 games. Now, given they didn't shoot as good as they did in the first game, they shot 39% from 3, and most of that was Naz Reid. But, to have an 18-point lead and for it to just dwindle like that, and you lose on a game-winning shot by Luka, like, at what point are the Mavs getting into the Timberwolves' heads here? Like, hey, it doesn't matter what you do. We're going to come out on top regardless.
Well, I'll tell you this.
You're getting pretty close to breaking them.
They're shooting about as well as they could possibly hope to shoot in terms of numbers. I mean, first game, I think they shot around 36%. Was that right? 36%?
It was hovering. It was around that, but, it cooled off toward the end of the game. They started out blazing. They were like
44% in the first half.
It was crazy. 18 threes for them in that game.
In this half, or in the first half of this game, at one point they were shooting damn near 70. It was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. They were making everything. And what did you say they ended up with?
They ended up shooting 38.7% tonight, 12 of 31 from threes. They shot 49 three-pointers in the first game, which was unbelievable for them. But
that's still higher than what they do in the regular season. So they're still shooting above their means, which means, I mean, you're not going to, I mean, I guess you could technically shoot a little bit better than this, but by the mean, not much. I mean, it's kind of disheartening if you're a Timberwolves fan. It's super disheartening to have the Mavs down by 18 points on your home floor with your foot on their throat, and you still can't close the deal. And then you have a mishap at the very end where your defensive player of the year is switched off on the Mavs main assassin, and you just get drilled. And that's got to be, I mean, the way that tonight ended for them has got to be heartbreaking. And I know these guys are professionals. I know that they're taught, next game mentality. But in the back of your mind, you lose one like this, and the way that you lost it, it's going to be tough. Now, I will say this: the Wolves are a better team on the road. We saw that in the last series against Denver specifically. But I mean, it's like you said. I feel like this is going to sound crazy. I think it's easier to accept a blowout loss than it is to accept a loss like tonight's.
Yeah.
Where you
especially when the Mavs role players aren't shooting good.
Yeah. So much is going wrong for the Mavs, so much is going right for you, and you still can't win.
That's tough.
That's tough, man.
And look, we talked about it at halftime. The reason, and it wasn't, the Mavs were down by 18 in that second quarter, and then they made they went on like an 8-2 run to close that second quarter, and they were only down 12 at halftime. And we were talking about it at halftime. The reason they were down is because at that time, the Timberwolves were controlling the boards.
Yep.
And they were controlling the points in the paint. They had a decent lead in both departments at halftime.
And they were shooting the piss out of the ball.
Yes. And by the time this game ended, the Mavs won the rebounding battle for the second consecutive game, 44-40. And they won the points in the paint battle 54-42. So completely different story for the Mavs in the second half. And they showed a clip on TNT before the third quarter started of Jason Kidd in the locker room. He said, okay, we're coming out and we're going to hit them in the mouth, after that first half we had. And then they showed another clip of him in a timeout when it was getting close there. And he was just like, come on, guys, it's right there for the taking. We've battled back. It's there. Let's go get it. And, man, what a feel-good win for the Mavs.
Yeah.
And you're going back home now. The crowd is going to be absolutely nuts. And the role players should play better at home. So, I do not expect, excuse me, anything can happen. But, I mean, I just don't expect P.J. Washington to go 0-4 from 3 again. I don't expect Derrick Jones Jr. To shoot 1 of 5 from the field at home. I expect there to be even if they don't shoot great, I expect those guys to at least hit a couple of threes. I certainly don't expect Kyrie Irving to miss 3 free throws in the next game. And after starting off game 1 as hot as he did, he had 24 of his 30 points in the first half of game 1. He started out this game, slow. He reverted back to what we saw in the previous 2 series where he only had 7 points heading into the fourth quarter, and then he turned it on in the fourth. And, if he had hit those 3 free throws, we wouldn't have even had to worry about, Luka hitting a game-winning 3 and talking about that missed call with McDaniels and all that stuff. If Kyrie just hits his free throws, it probably doesn't even matter. So that's something that can improve going into the next game. I don't know, man. Like you said, there's so much that has gone right for Minnesota that for the Mavs to have a 2-0 lead going back to Dallas just feels unbelievable. And yeah. I'm not gonna predict anything outrageous. I'm just telling you how it feels right now, and it feels like the Mavs are on the verge of doing the damn thing. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens in Dallas on Sunday. That game will also be on TNT. It'll be at 7 o'clock at American Airlines Center. It is going to be a crazy one, man. It's going to be crazy. But before we head out of here, what do you look forward to the most going into game 3?
Hopefully the role players actually stepping up and making some shots, because if they do that, and if we just clean up our act a little bit, just, not as many unforced errors, not as many turnovers, we'll not only beat Minnesota, we'll blow them off the floor, because it's like we keep saying, a lot is going right for Minnesota, and they're due for a slip up where they come back down to earth. And if Minnesota comes back down to earth, I've got bad news for them. They're going to get ran out of the building. And I'm not saying that it's not impossible to come back from a 3-0 deficit, but if they go down 3-0, you can pretty much put a fork in it.
Yeah, with how the Mavs have played defensively since February, I mean, it's a 3 going down 0-3 is already horrible, but you go down 0-3 to Luka and Kyrie. I don't know. I mean, they say don't count your chickens before they hatch, but I think I'd be counting some chickens at that point. So we'll see. And look, one more thing, I just thought about it before we take off here. Anthony Edwards, the talk of these first two games has been his stamina, and he looks really tired toward the end of these games. And I don't know, it could be a couple of things. I do think the Mavs defense, just hounding for 48 minutes has some, something to do with it. But I'm also wondering if this is kind of a situation like we saw with Luka during 2022, where it was his first long playoff run. He had never been that deep into the postseason before, making it to the Western Conference Finals and taking on a much more experienced Golden State Warriors team, where he, in that series he looked gassed and the Mavs lost in 5 games. It's almost to me like maybe it's the same kind of situation with Anthony Edwards. He's never been this far into the postseason before. He's coming off a tough, grueling 7-game series against the defending champion Denver Nuggets. And I mean, Anthony Edwards is amazing, but for a 22-year-old who's never been this far into the postseason, it's been a long season, 82-game regular season, then you go through 2 tough rounds, which I guess their first round wasn't tough against the Phoenix Suns, but, you come off that Denver series, and now you're in the Western Conference Finals, and you're having to pay attention to detail for all 48 minutes because you're going up against Luka and Kyrie, and I think, he is just worn out. And I think he will eventually get his, conditioning up, and he'll get used to this going forward to where this probably doesn't happen in future playoff runs. But I think that might be a little bit of what we're seeing with Anthony Edwards in this series.
He's weird. Like, something weird is going on with him. Like, I would agree with you to an extent, but I mean, they're on the sideline giving that kid oxygen. They're like literally plugging him up to an oxygen mask like he's in freaking Denver, Colorado.
That's what I'm saying. He's tired. I don't know.
Is he sick?
I don't know. If he's sick, we hadn't heard anything about it yet. But I mean, it would make sense if they said, he'd been battling the flu or, something like that. That would make a whole lot of sense. But, I really do think, I don't think we need to underestimate, just how taxing these deep playoff runs are, because, I mean, we saw it. Luka was just blazing in that Phoenix series that year. Same situation. It was a tough second round series where the Mavs were playing the top seeded Phoenix Suns who had won 64 games. They were down 3-2 in that series, and then Luka went bananas in games 6 and 7. And then they roll into the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. I think they had a huge lead in game 1. It was like 16, 17 points or something like that, and they ended up blowing it and losing game 1. And then it was just downhill from there. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that does have a little bit to do with it, but it just, Anthony Edwards, he hasn't been the Anthony Edwards that we saw in that series against Denver. And I think you have to credit the Mavs defense, and I think you also have to look at, what he's gone through, and him only being 22 years old, not having been this far into the postseason. It's taxing. I mean, it's not, I don't care how young you are and how, fresh your legs are as a 22-year-old. If you go through this many tough, grinding playoff games, one after the other for 3 consecutive rounds, it's going to eventually catch up to you. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing with him. So we'll see. We'll see how much more fight the Timberwolves have in them. From their perspective, they got to be looking at this like, man, we could have been up, 2-0 ourselves if we had taken advantage of these these hot shooting nights. You had Jaden McDaniels looking like Kevin Durant in his prime in game 1, and then you had Naz Reid looking like he's never going to miss a shot for the rest of his days in game 2.
Like basketball Jesus. I mean,
that's really how he was playing, and you can't get either game. I mean, that's crazy. We'll see. We'll see how much more fight they have in them. I'm sure they'll come out with a lot of fire in game 3 in Dallas, because this is essentially their season on the line on Sunday. I know it's not officially over, but essentially this is it for the Timberwolves. If they don't win on Sunday, it's over for them. So, and on the Mavs side, you have to think about, stomp them out, put your foot on the throat and stomp this team out while you can. And then, if you can, let's see, I think June 6th would be game 1 of the NBA Finals. It'll be May 26th. So May 28th. If you can end this in a sweep at home, which the Mavs have a great opportunity to do, then you essentially get a full week off, a little over a full week off before the NBA Finals starts, which would be huge.
That might be too much time, honestly.
Probably would be.
No, but I'm with you, man. We need to buckle down. We need to execute. Hopefully, our role players will hopefully step up and actually produce. And we need to put the dogs down. Just got to put them down right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I think at this point, Luka and Kyrie have to smell blood, right? So this is going to be one of those things where we'll really see what this team is made of. Because, I would say you're going to get the Timberwolves' best punch in game 3, but I thought they got their best punch tonight. Honestly, I thought they got their best punch in game 2. And the Mavs weren't good, and they were down by 18, and they came all the way back and they won in the way they did. So I don't know, man. This feels like the Mavs have a real opportunity to stomp this thing out, and we'll see if they do that on Sunday.
The only way I could see things being a little bit better for Minnesota is if their star players actually play like star players. Cat didn't really do too terribly much tonight, and they benched him in the 4th. Anthony Edwards hasn't been Anthony Edwards all series. As a team, they shot the ball extremely well, and Naz Reid looked incredible tonight. But I think if you're the Wolves, you've got to ask your star players to play like star players, because the past 2 games, they just haven't.
I don't know, man. Even if they get the star, like I think everybody on their roster is going to have to have a great shooting it, because I mean, even if Cat comes back in game 3 and has a great shooting game, I mean, do we really expect Naz Reid to go 7 of 9 from 3 again?
No.
Do we really expect Jaden McDaniels to have another game where he went 6 of 9 from 3 in game 1?
No.
So I think they're going to have to get it from everybody to win.
It's really interesting. It's like a complete polar opposite deal going on with the Timberwolves and the Mavs. The Mavs are getting, stuff from their stars. They aren't getting anything from their role players, and it's right the opposite for the Wolves. Their role players are carrying the load, and their stars haven't really been stars. So
I wouldn't say the Mavs are getting nothing from they are getting something from their big men, but from their wings, they're not getting anything.
Role playing wings. Okay, so it's not as black and white as I made it out to be. I'm sorry, but it's still, that parallel is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And again, there's just something different about those role playing wings when you go from playing in front of a Minnesota crowd where everybody is against you and doing the whiteout and extremely loud, just preying on your downfall, to going home, where the tables are turned and it's more of a comfort feeling for you. So I fully expect a better game 3 from PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. in game 3. Now we'll see how much that carries over, but if if Luka and Kyrie keep playing the way they're playing, and Derrick Jones Jr. and PJ Washington pick things up in Game 3, I could see the Mavs winning Game 3 in more comfortable fashion, not having to have a Luka 3-pointer with time winding down to win it. So, we'll
me
see.
and my blood pressure would prefer such an outcome.
I'm right there with you. It seems like every game is just going to be like this until the bitter end. But as long as that bitter end, or not bitter, as long as that end is sweet and it ends with a Larry O'Brien trophy, that'll be fine. We'll take that trade off for blood pressure medicines.
Yes, gladly.
But guys, look, we appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us ramble for the better part of an hour here on Friday night. Amazing win for the Mavs, 109-108 in Game 2. They have a 2-game lead in the Western Conference Finals, heading to Dallas for Games 3 and 4. Game 3 will be Sunday night. It's going to be a good one. We'll be back on here to recap that one as well. But in the meantime, be sure to go like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts for a chance to win future giveaways. This has been a crazy postseason. DJ and I have thoroughly enjoyed coming on here and talking about all these games. It's almost therapeutic for us because, you go through all the ups and downs of all these games and you get to kind of talk through that and calm yourself down a little bit. And we can't wait to continue doing this. Hopefully, we'll have our first ever NBA Finals edition of Mavs Step Back Podcast. So we'll see how it goes. But, guys, we appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your Friday night and have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.